There's some terms here too that you can watch out for at the infrastructure layer. Because there is all this decision making to be made, there's this notion of zones. Like where are these resources? And so are they in the US? Are they in Europe? Where do I want them to be? How do I have disaster recovery? And so yes, all this complexity suddenly enters in at this layer. Platform as a service is different. So this is things like Google App Engine, Salesforce.com, Amazon Elastic Beanstalk, and so forth. There's lots of examples of these out there. But this is a different model. This is where you can't just take the code that you've always written and just suddenly put it in the cloud. Some amount of rewrite, some amount of rework is going to happen in the platform layer. But what you get for it is, you get like authentication models. Somebody else will handle verifying who the user is that's using your application. You'll get services like Data Store, aka Google Bigtable, where you have like, infinite key value pair lookup and it's redundant and reliable. You have things like, versioning control where you can do experiments like I want to deploy only 1% of my users onto my new software versus 99% on my old software. And as I'm confident that my new bits work, I can actually kind of move the dial over. And these systems in the background are automatically moving users to these different servers and services. So you've given up some flexibility around configuration and control, but you've gained a whole lot more around scalability. And then there are, obviously test services and payment systems and things that you can integrate in at this level. Is all of this resonating so far with everybody? Okay, good. Then we have the last layer, which is the software as a service tier. This is actually where Google started. It's very interesting. Different companies have taken different approaches to cloud. Google has sort of come from the top down. We started with software as a service, things like Gmail and search and all these other things. Moved down into the platform layer with Google App Engine, and further down with these infrastructure components I'll show. Others in the industry started differently, and fundamentally their design points are different. Where they started at the infrastructure layer and moved up, and you can sort of see this permeate through their architectures. And then even a third one, which I can't name, but sort of started in the middle and sort of moved out from the platform layer, kind of up and down, which was probably perhaps one of the hardest points to start at. So software as a service layer, you have a model around computation and code, but you get capabilities like I want to run a query on a terabyte of data, but the data has to be structured a particular way, for example. You have things like Google Translation Service and other things at this layer. So reduced, complexity, the least complex, but the least flexible. So how does this look for Google, and how do we sort of shape across these tiers? Just one quick segue. The language of cloud, there's basically two languages of cloud. There is REST and JSON and SOAP and XML. Every provider out there speaks one of these two languages. Google made a set of choices. I'll talk about those in a minute. Really around REST and JSON, we wanted simplicity, less statefulness. But there are different languages of the cloud. These are important. These will impact how you actually develop your software. So Google, where are we? Here's how Google layers across these services. Yes, I realize this is a little bit of an eye chart for those in the back of the room. So hopefully you have like 20/10 vision. But I will walk you through these and give you a little bit of an explanation of these technologies. And certainly we can talk more about these later. I actually have demos of a couple of them, so I will definitely do demos. So where do we start? So at the bottom tier, we have the infrastructure as a service. So we have Google Cloud SQL. This is hosted MySQL in the cloud. So if you use MySQL, SQL Server, any other sort of Oracle, SQL-based language, MySQL will look very familiar to you. The data types are familiar. The syntax is familiar. SQL 99 or whatever type syntax. And in the cloud, you get this service. And so whether you're programming an app engine, compute engine, or even outside of the Google Cloud, you have a database. It looks like a database. Right? And you can run queries and put data in and run transactions and so forth. What's unique about the Google Cloud SQL that's different than others is our monetization model, the way you pay for it. We have two models. One is you can sort of get a subscription model. The other is you can pay per use. And so for like 10 cents an hour, you can have a 100 gigabyte database or something like that. And when you're not using it, it automatically shuts down for you. When you go and you run a query, we'll automatically spin up your database, attach it to it, and let your query complete. I don't know of anybody else in the industry that gives you that level of flexibility for their SQL service. So that's actually pretty cool. by the way, I spent my whole career in like these infrastructure layers all the way up, so what's totally cool to me is not always cool to others. I spent my whole time doing operating systems. I think operating systems are cool. Can we save 1 bit? Most people are like, 1 bit? Well, I don't even care 1 bit. Like, I got more bits on my phone than I like all existed in 1961. Anyway, so to the storage layer. So Google Cloud Storage has been around for a while. It's growing. We've added capabilities like static web hosting into the service. So you can serve web pages out of here. We're one of the first companies to support cores. This is like cross-origin request, request or whatever, where you can say, oh, this server can request data from Google Cloud Storage and make it look as though it's coming from my own site. And so this fixes a lot of permissions problems when you build applications on the internet. We have some really cool new features that I'm probably not supposed to talk about that will be coming down the road here with this, which makes it a lot easier. We added a file API into App Engine, so it's easier to manipulate files in Google Cloud Storage. So we continue to innovate quarter after quarter, week after week. New bits are shipped. It's astonishing that we'll ship basically new kernels every week in Compute Engine. I don't know anybody else that does that at that speed. And so with that, Compute Engine is our virtual machine offering in the cloud. We offer a couple different versions of OSs. They look very familiar, and we'll log in. You have different images you can choose. At some point, we'll let you upload your own kernels and very interesting stuff. But it's we have data centers all around the world that allow you to host VMs, and I'll show you that. So that's our infrastructure as a service layer. Very cool, growing. There's more that will be coming in the coming weeks, months, and years in that layer. The platform as a service is like Google App Engine, which has been around for a while, and we continue to innovate services. And we're always trying to find ways to better blend like programmability inside of the App Engine with Compute Engine, so you can start to move your code more flexibly between the different services. We're getting better at that. App Engine has different models of computation. You can host Python code, Java code, Go code up in the cloud. It'll scale up or scale down. It integrates directly with the services down below, so whether you're pulling objects or queries,